Welcome to Prophet CRM Learning Series. CRM is a journey. This video series will take you through the ins and outs of the Prophet CRM.
Greetings and welcome to the program today. My name is Warren Stokes. I'm your host and presenter, and we have a very popular topic today. It's how to get started with Prophet CRM. Now, this was going to be useful for anyone who's just literally getting started with Prophet, maybe for the first time. It also serves as a great refresher training course on some of the basics, and maybe you're just curious as to how it all works. So welcome to the program. The topics are basically covering all the things about getting started with Prophet, things like how to prep your computer, how to get your contacts organized and prepared. Installation, in case you haven't done that yet, or maybe you have a new computer and you need to install it again. Setting up views and lists, a key part of the getting started with Prophet, and very important, just how to start managing your contacts effectively. So I'm going to cover very, very briefly just through the slide deck here, but then we're going to show you how to do all this in a live demonstration. Basically, on the computer prep, all you really need to think about is you just need to have a fairly modern computer with hopefully Windows 10 on it, although we do support older versions of Windows. Nice to have 2010, 2016, 2019 versions of Outlook. We also support Outlook 365, part of Office 365. 32-bit is fine, 64-bit's better. So just basically any modern computer. Has to be a PC unless you're going to jump through some hoops and run it on a Mac. If you have a Mac, contact me separately. We'll get you sorted out on that. You may or may not be using the Exchange function, but that would be more of an IT function that your IT folks can look at. So don't worry about that too much if you're just getting started right now. One of the key things is to start off with is prepare your contacts. So one of the key concepts that Prophet uses is the ability to mark contacts as private. It's just an Outlook function. There's a little lock symbol on an Outlook contact. You can also put them in a list view, which is a way to look at your contacts in Outlook. And this is all before you install Prophet, although you could do it afterwards. By adding the column private into your Outlook list here, it's just by using the field chooser, you just add private to your columns here. You can just go down the list and check the box for all of the contacts that you do not want to be in Prophet. If you miss some or somehow some get into the CRM that you don't want there, you can go back and simply mark them Prophet, either through the Outlook contact card or the column. Pretty simple, and that's just a way to segment the contacts so you don't end up with your dog groomer and your aunt and uncle and so forth in the CRM. Not the end of the world, but there's a nice way to separate them out. On a new installation, the first thing you have to do is create a password. Now, I'll also make this slide deck available. Simply email me later, and if you want a copy of it, you can have it, or just watch the video. But it's profitondemand.com, and you go there and you're going to see a sign-in screen. But what you're going to do is you're going to put your email address in and skip the sign-in because you don't have a password yet. This is just a little shortcut. Just click forgot your password. Then you go to your inbox for that email address, and you'll see that there's an email that gives you a link to create a password. It's pretty painless. To download the software, you go to here or just go to our website and you'll find there's a support section on this, but avidian.com/install/client is where you're going to download the software. It does require admin rights unless you have one of us show you how to install it as a non-admin. Don't worry about that too much right now, but this is the basic idea. Then you need to close Outlook and then run the file, and then takes you through all the normal little Windows install, accept the terms and conditions. It goes through some setup stuff. And then at the end, you'll see a button that says finish. When you click finish, it's going to launch you into this page here, which is your initial setup. And all you got to do is put that new password in along with your email, and away you go. You are then going to be launched into Prophet, and it's going to automatically open Outlook, and it's going to put you into the contact manager. You may or may not see any contacts in here. It depends on whether or not you are already part of an implementation of Prophet. But basically, it's going to launch you into a view called All Contacts, and I'll show you all this in a moment. So essentially what this has done is it's added a set of folders over here in your folder list. They may appear, they're going to appear in your folder list, but they may be, fairly deep down. You have to kind of see where they are. You can then move them up, add them to favorites. I'll show you all that. But essentially, you're done installing it, and now you're ready to either sync your contacts or just look at all the contacts that might have already been assigned to you. Setting up views is a key part of it. think of a view as just a list. We call them views. And to create a new view, you go to that all contacts, hover over tools, and just say create new. And this is a very important concept. Setting up views is important. Like you can set them up by certain geography or whether they're assigned to you or someone else, that sort of thing. So you give the view a name. In this case, this one's called Hollywood Contacts. Optionally, you can give it a description if it's not obvious. And then you set this select contacts by, which is either assigned to you, it's called assigned to me, assigned to specific users, or all contacts, but that happens to be an administrative function only. You'd have to be a Prophet admin to bypass all that and see all contacts. Simple to add, set up views by city and or state. You just go to additional filtering once you're in that view options. And you set the match here either to an and filter or an or filter. So if it's on an and filter, it means all criteria must be met. So state, in this case, they have to be in the state of California and the city of Hollywood. Then you simply select your comparator. I use the term equals rather than contains or et cetera, or it's up to you. Equals is an exact match. Contains works as well. And if you don't know what that means, just, ping me afterwards in terms of what a comparator is when you're setting up a filter. So in this case, the next thing you could do is choose the columns that you want in that view. These are just the columns in the list. And on the left are all the columns available, including all the custom fields. You just use the little right arrow to move them to the right, move them up, moves them to the left in the view. Simple thing. And then you choose your sort order. So you can preset it so that it's sorted a certain way, maybe by most recently modified date or oldest modified date or state and province and all of the different potential fields there. And then your view will look something like this, where you have now you've got your list and it's all of the contacts that meet that criteria. Voila, you've got yourself your first view, and you can replicate that throughout Prophet. Use the drop-down list to navigate between views, and I'm going to expect that most of you will have multiple views here. Like I have one called my current prospects, my current clients, my LinkedIn contacts, and so on, LinkedIn leads, or whatever it is that you're looking to work on that day. That's the idea behind it. So you set up these views, and this works the same way for the company manager and the opportunity manager. Mostly we're focusing on contacts and companies today. But talk about a little bit more about getting data into Prophet. So all of your Outlook contacts come over natively, right through Outlook, unless you mark them private, as we talked. The company records are created automatically if there's a company name in the contact, which is really handy. And it will also associate the contacts with the same company name to that company record. And again, I'm going to show you a little bit more about this as we go through the demonstration here. You can drag and drop an inbound email to create a contact. We'll go through that. You can import data from Excel. I'm not going to spend time on that today. That's another topic, but it's not that hard. Most people need a little training on that, so just let us know if that's something you want to do. You can use that import utility to mass update records, something you would do after the fact. We also offer website form integration to capture contacts and leads and such. You may or may not have or be interested in an ERP integration or an accounting system integration, which would synchronize and create contacts and such from your ERP or accounting system. Those are add-on kind of services that we have. And then I'm going to go through the searching in some detail, because really it's all about finding things. Searching is just how you find things. So there's three types of searches. There is the search a view, which is pretty easy. Just to put a search term, company name, or anything like that in there. And it finds the associated records. And we're going to focus on contacts and companies today. There's an advanced search, which simply bypasses that any filters you've set up. So it's searching all views, essentially. So you just don't have to switch views to find something not in that list. And there's a really handy one, which allows you to search for records that have certain notes in them, which can be handy if there's some specific like project names and you wanted to find, companies or contacts with that in there. And then there's a very powerful global search function in Prophet, which does all sorts of things, including finding contacts or companies. But it can also search and find things like images, documents, emails. Very powerful, but it also tends to generate a lot of results. So we offer several different ways of searching for things. And then we're going to show you how to manage your contacts. Basically, check for missing data. That's a handy function. Filter by null values to find that. Cleaning up duplicates is handy, very important. There's some nice functions in Prophet for that. And then this is where it all culminates. Why are you doing this? Well, it's not just to have lists. It's to use these lists and views to perform important tasks like making outbound calls. Maybe you want to create a list of contacts to make calls out to, or send email blasts, or maybe you want to use it to help prioritize your activity by some criteria. There's a lot of different ways you could do it. It also is very useful to track how many new contacts you've created, or your team has, or company accounts that have been created. You can export from Prophet as well if you want to export to Excel, but that is a permission-based function. Your administrator will have to give you rights to export to Excel. But let's just go in, and now we're going to just show you how this works. So right now I'm just in my Outlook email. This is where Prophet lives. Remember, we talked about the 3 folders that get created, and we're going to I'm going to show you first like what it looks like to prep your contacts. So you would go into a view of people. You would then I'm going to perform a little filter search here just to filter this down to certain contacts. I use a little special term for that. In any event, all of these contacts are just in my Outlook right now. Let's say you haven't installed Prophet. These are basically all my contacts that I have in Hollywood. And what we'll do is we want to go in here and we want to change the view from whatever it was on. You got people, business card, phone, and change it to a list view. And that way we can then go in and add the private column. So I'm going to remove this column, first of all, to show you how to add that, because it's not a default column. So here's what you do to add a column, any column, to your contact list. Now notice where I'm at. I'm down here in my people folder. Let me sidebar for a minute. A lot of people ask me, hey, how did you get that to actually spell out the mail, calendar, people, and tasks? Well, there's a little 3 buttons here and you go to navigation options. By default, most computers and Outlook instances come with what's called compact navigation, these little icons. I prefer the word. So you hit the 3 dots, go to navigation options, and unchecked compact navigation. That way you got it all spelled out. Mail, calendar, people, and text. Anyway, so now we're going to go back in. We're going to put the column called private in here. You just have to hover over any of the column headers, right click, and find this field chooser. Once you're in that field chooser, you need to go into all contact fields, not frequently used ones and so forth, but all contact fields. You can see it right there. And now it's alphabetical. I just find private, and you're going to see that I can now just drag and drop private up to my column up in there. And you can drop it in anywhere. You just put it right up between a couple of other column headers, and there you go. Now we've added private in there. So now I can go through and mark contacts private that are not intended to be in the CRM. Doesn't change anything in Outlook. It just keeps them out of Prophet CRM. So that's the idea of getting your contacts kind of organized and set up. Let's now assume we've just installed Prophet. It's going to launch me into a view here. And you have to be back in your mail view. It's going to launch me into a view called Contact Manager. I wanted to point out before we get too much farther that you have to find this Avidian Prophet folder. It could be way down in your folder list, but I like to put them in my favorites. To put any folder up in your favorites, which means it's up in this top box here, you just right click on that folder and say add to favorites, and notice how it's moving it up here. I just prefer this, and a lot of people that I talk to kind of like that idea because you don't have to go deep into your folder list. I'll put Opportunity Manager in there, even though we're not going to talk a lot about that today. So now it doesn't really matter where Prophet lives down in these folders. It's up here in your favorites. So again, it's going to launch you into Contact Manager, and it's going to launch you into a view of Prophet called All Contacts. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create some different views. So you would be in a view called All Contacts, like so. I'll just go ahead and load my view in. One of the unique things about Prophet is it lets you load lists of virtually any size. Many systems, like even take Google search, retrieves like 25 records at a time. Many CRMs work that way. We elected to not limit the size of the list, but just bear in mind that if you have a really large list for all contacts, it could take a little time to load. But in any event, I'm in a view called All Contacts, and now I'm going to show you the view that I was showing you earlier. and how I created it. So what I did is I went in and created certain filters. And you can see this little icon, kind of like a red pencil and a blue piece of paper. It says edit this view. Well, when you click create new view, it works the same way. And I'm going to show you kind of the cooking show approach of I've already created the view. So you have these choices. I almost always leave it in table grid, but you could use just a simple list, not very useful actually. So just leave it in table grid. The default is select by user assignments, and that's useful. We're not going to get deep into how we can set up folder syncing, but that's possible too. User assignments is a good one because then you might want all those contacts assigned to me in this view here. Then we go into additional filtering, and this is where it gets fun. You're going to see that you can add different fields to filter on. When I clicked on state, I chose the comparator, and this is what I meant by comparator. It's between, contains, greater than, less than, or equal to, and I chose equal to so I can get an exact match on the term for California. City, same way, equals Hollywood. I could add other filters just by putting my cursor here and continuing down that. I could put in categories or whatever. But in this case, I'm just showing you how I created a list. Now, there's some other criteria here, which is which columns do you want? So I'm still in the same view here. On the left are all the columns that I have available in the database, including all the customizable fields in Prophet. And maybe I want to put in modified date as one of those. So by moving it with the right arrow to the list on the right, it'll show up at the far right of your list, but you can then move it up, which moves it to the left in your view. So now what I've just done is I've added a column called modified date, and I put it way over here on the left. But I could also just drag that over here if I want. Any of these columns can be dragged. You can use drag and drop just to move them around. Now, anytime you have created any changes to a list like this, you can either hit F12, which is a shortcut, or just if you don't remember that, just right click and say save changes to view. And then those columns and fields that you put in here and so forth are preserved, as well as any sort ordered. Like I might want to sort it by most recently modified. Just if I change that, then I would say save changes to view. Again, you can add columns through the edit view button, but you can also add columns with a shortcut here. Just anytime you can right click and say choose columns, and it brings you back into that same column chooser we were just looking at. Pretty awesome. Now, one of the reasons you want to set up views like this and choose the right columns is that so you can create filtered lists of all of these types of contacts in this case. So let's go back and take a quick look. I'm going to just go into one of my prospecting. So I've created a lot of views. One of them is my prospecting. I just do outbound prospecting using Prophet here. And maybe what I want to do is I want to create a filtered list that has perhaps just something as simple by state. Okay, so here's my state column. Now you can see that I can just find the value that I want, or I can start typing it in, and that's kind of like an Excel search. I just typed in part of the word California and it found all of those. So these are all my prospects that are in certain criteria, but they're all in California now. So I could create a list like based on criteria. Now, you also have other filters like type of contact and so on that you can add. And there's no limit to how many filters you can add. Like now I can add a city, and maybe I want to add San Francisco, for example. And so I'm just adding more and more filters, and it's narrowing down that list. You can see I have only 9 of those types of contacts in San Francisco, California, and they're all prospects of some type. So that's one of the things that you can do with Prophet to create these very valuable lists. Now, there's a number of things you might do here. One of them, though, would be to search the view. Maybe you remember something like I'm going to clear out some of these filters here. I'll clear out city. So I wanted to show you how to do some searching. So you can clear a filter really easy. Just clear it. I can clear my state filter too if we want. All right. So now that removed all the filters. We're back up to about 1,324. But let's just say I remembered somebody's last name, and I'm just going to type, Adams in here, and it's going to bring up all of the contacts who's got Adams as the name in the last name. Pretty cool. Simple to do. Clear the filter, away you go. Now I'm going to go back into my Hollywood contacts because I wanted to show you how to do something really fun if you don't already know this. Let's say, let's say I want to go in and I want to shoot out an email to everyone that's on this list here. So I can simply right click or select them with my keyboard, either one. I could select all or select some of these, and I'm going to right click. And one of the handy things in Prophet, one of the basic contact management things, is to do a little bit of outreach. So I can say right click, send a group email. This creates your recipient list, which you can still edit, add, remove. You can choose HTML or text. I usually do HTML, but text is sometimes preferred for certain reasons. By default, it's going to be on HTML. And the nice thing is this will give you the ability to personalize the email by adding a salutation like hello, first name. The importance is an Outlook function. For example, if I create hi, what that does is it puts a little red exclamation point on the person's inbound email box on that email. So that's optional. But then you simply do create email. Now, all this does is it brings up the first email, and this is where I'm going to compose my email that's going to be sent out to all these contacts. You may or may not know, Office 365 or Microsoft 365 now has a function called templates. So I could go over here and pick content from a template. You can see all these different, content blocks that I've got here. You can add as much as you want. Of course, you could simply type it in as well. There's a little function in Outlook to add your signature. Maybe you've seen it before. Just go up here to insert, add your signature. I usually use my main. You would give it a subject line, whatever you want. Remember, it's just an Outlook email that's going to go out. And when I click send, everyone on this list is going to get a personalized Outlook email. But the first one gets sent, and you can go inspect it before you click send again, which will send all of them. So you can go into your sent items and look at it. I know it's good, but maybe you just want to be double sure there's no typos, or you want one more chance to look at it before you hit send, which sends them out to everyone. So in this case, I would just send again, and it's going to ask me again, do I want to continue to send a group email? Because remember, that email is going out to everyone you selected. So I hit yes, send again. Now, all of these emails are being generated out to that list of contacts. It takes about a half second per email. That's why, practically speaking, this tool is not useful for sending out 1,000 at a time or whatever, but it's very handy for sending out 10, 50, 100, 200 at a time. There's no exact limit on that. Now, one thing that just occurred then was that whenever I do that, a note is put into the file that shows the time and the date, who sent the email, what the type of activity was. In this case, it's an automated note saying it's a group email, and it'll tag it with the subject line. That's also something you could run reports on if you wish, but it just gives you an idea of, if you're looking into the notes of a contact, what's been going on with that contact. So let's continue on that front. One of the basic things then throughout Prophet is this whole notes area. It's really simple, and as we talked about, just the fundamental things you're going to do with the system here is to help manage your contacts, and one of those things is making calls and logging in activity. So that's this area here. I'm down here on the bottom where it says General Notes Opportunity. I'm in the notes section. By the way, you can use your mouse wheel, holding the control key down and mouse wheel to zoom in and out. I like it kind of a little bigger. It's my eyes. And then on the right are your customizable activity entries. There are defaults when you first start, but in another webinar, we'll get deeper into customizing Prophet. Suffice it to say that your administrator for Prophet, or you, if you are one, can create these customized activity entries. And the whole point of this is so you just don't have to type things in all the time. It puts the time, the date, the modified date, which is another field here, by the way, the type of activity it was. And so you can just, put in a quick note, left a voicemail, did a quick follow-up, whatever. Just a handy way to log your activities in here. We're gonna cover opportunities and have in a different session. But one of the things you could do in here is just look at activities. And you see that under the activities tab, you can look at emails, appointments, or tasks. I'll just do emails. This will just simply search all emails sent to or received from that person. And if you're in a shared environment, this can also be set up so people can see common emails that are in the system and the database shared. And if you haven't set that up and would like to, just reach out, shout out to us. You can also see things like appointments and tasks that might have been set for that person. Notice I don't have any, but up here is another thing you can do. You can set an appointment with somebody. All right, and I'm going to just say meeting with Mel Gibson. This is just an Outlook appointment. I use color coding a lot. And I'm going to save that meeting. And now down here in my activities, you'll actually see it here. But the cool thing is it's actually on my Outlook calendar. But by putting it into Prophet, it actually puts it right here on my Outlook calendar. Pretty awesome. That's just one of the Outlook integrations that we have. So again, we're just in Contact Manager. We can look up somebody. Let me show you how to search. I showed you searching by a name, but let's search the view and add a little spice to this. This is a fairly recent update we did in the last few months, but it added the ability to search, do an advanced search. In other words, bypass the list filter I'm in. And it's also going to be, gives you the option of searching through the notes in the contact. So I'm going to use this little term. It's the island of Madagascar. I've never been there, but it's kind of a unique word. That's why I'm using it. And I just hit enter or click the search thing here. And this is going to find all contacts with that term Madagascar in the notes somewhere. And that's one of the functions of the advanced search with notes. So look at this, all of these contacts. I bypassed the list, the filters, and I included search notes. And that's why it's picking up these contacts in my search. Pretty cool. So there's a LinkedIn invite, talk about Project Madagascar. This has it in here somewhere. And sure enough, there it is. I left a voicemail about Project Madagascar. So an interesting new feature. Let's say that I wanted to find, again, maybe search by company. This is like that Excel filter. And I want to find a company with the term Hawk in it. That's all I could remember. Look, it brought up the only one that has the term Hawk in it, HAWK, and 2 contacts from that company. Pretty awesome. That's just a simple little search that works like Excel. You can clear that out. And then there's an interesting function called the global search. It's really just, you go up a level here, you click on search. First of all, notice that you can select different types of data that you want to search. That's why we call it global. It'll even search local documents, spreadsheets, and things like that. But let's just pick, first of all, let's pick contacts. And I'm going to put Mel Gibson in here. One of my contacts. Actually, I met Mel. Look at all that. I found all kinds of data with Mel Gibson as contact in here. So, but let's go over here and look at image. Oh, that was image. So let's look at images. You can even search things like images. Well, those are picture files. So if I click on that, you'll see that it would bring up the image. In this case, it should be Mel Gibson as the label on it. So here it is. It actually found that the picture of Mel Gibson was embedded in his contact. Pretty cool. So those are some things that you can do. Here's another one, just an image, and that actually is an image of a search of Mel Gibson. So pretty powerful stuff that you can do with this global search. I will often just search Prophet data if I'm looking for someone and I don't want to go outside of the world of Prophet. This will just give me all Prophet data that's related to Mel Gibson, the name. And so you can see here, there's opportunities, contacts, companies, and other types of records just by searching in the Prophet database. So those are some of the search functions that you'll find handy throughout Prophet. And I wanted to get into a little bit more on creating contacts. So we're kind of backing up a little bit, but I mentioned that you could, and I was going to show you how to create contacts from inbound emails. So why don't we do that for right now? And this webinar is intended to be between 30 and 45 minutes. So we're getting there. Look at that. I just got an email from Anthony Hopkins. Wow, cool. So one of the things that you can do is you can take an inbound email and you can use Outlook, the Outlook function, to do a drag and drop. Now I'm going to drag it over and drop it over my people folder. And Prophet, once it's installed, introduces a duplicate checker, because I don't really want to create duplicates. That's a big thing and a thing not to do in Prophet, typically speaking. But it gives you the chance. Maybe there are two Anthony Hopkins really in your world, and they're different contacts. You could create a new one anyway. But in this case, I would simply open that contact instead of creating it. Hope that makes sense. But let's just say that I wanted to create the new contact, and there maybe it wasn't a match. I click Create New Contact. It's warning me again that a contact like this exists, and it creates the contact card for you. It'll put the first name, last name, email address in it automatically, and then you'll often have like an email signature. Notice that I'm not even copy pasting, I'm just dragging it. You could copy paste. This way you get like an exact spelling of the company name, title and so on. So really, in just a jiffy, I've created a new contact. Now I'm going to actually save and close this, and it's going to warn me one more time. So it gives you 3 warnings. I'm going to say create a brand new contact. And the reason I'm doing this is because I wanted to show you how you can use the deduping function in Prophet. And so we're going to go in here, and we're going to see that sometimes you'll find that you accidentally got a dupe in here somehow. Well, there's a nice feature in Prophet that lets you fix that. One of the concepts here is that you can choose which one of these is the overriding contact. There's business logic built into this function, but the way it works is that whichever one you save and close last, the most recently, will show up kind of as the override. So now I'm basically going to select these duplicates. There could be 3 of them or 4, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to use my right click function and say I'm going to use, it's called merge contacts. So what it's doing is it's showing me what's going to happen here. And one of the key concepts is it'll fill empty fields from one contact to another. The most recently, if there are populated fields, the most recently saved one will overwrite, but it's always going to append notes, not overwrite them. That way, notes from both contact cards, in this case, are going to be saved in here. And there you go. We've just successfully deduped that contact. Pretty awesome. So that is a way to dedupe contacts, and in companies, it will work similarly, but oftentimes with companies, you will have slightly different spellings of accounts, like, Batwoman Fashion Products and Batwoman Fashion Products, but one has a space and the other doesn't. Now I can just see at a glance that this is probably the one I want because it has contacts associated with it. I just want to open that just to make sure, because I want to just double check that I'm, getting the right one. Yep, there's Wayne Gibson and Susan and Mary, all the people I know that should be in there. I usually just put a note just to make absolutely sure we're updating the record. Now I'm going to dedupe them, but now we're in the company. Remember, so again, companies actually can't have the exact spelling and be a duplicate in Prophet. We already covered that. But if there's slightly difference, LLC, Corp, Inc., or like this one, there's a space difference. So you can actually clean that up too. In this case, we're going to do a company merge. Same thing. Oh, look, it's picking up categories to merge too. That's awesome. Remember, it won't overwrite notes in case you're worried about that. And there, we've successfully deduped companies. I'll cover this question, then we'll wrap up. When saving a view, how do you save it to include filtering options that have been selected? That's a good question. That's actually a very good question. So let's say that I was in a view of contacts or companies, and I wanted to, here, let me just go back to that prospecting view because that has a bunch of fields in it. We'll just do that. And it's how to save, what we're talking about is how to save a view once filters have been applied. So I'll show you that, and then we'll call that the wrap. We're going to go in and we're going to say we only want contacts in California. So you see where I'm at over here on the right. So I'm filtering this view. Now you can see they're all in California. So I could then go up here and hover over. So I'm in the view drop down right here, view drop down. You hover over tools and it'll say save view as, and you would give it a name, prospecting. I'll just call it CA for short. And now that view will be saved as my prospecting leads in California. So I've essentially created a view. So thank you for that question. That was a great one. All right, so I'm going to post my contact information. And first of all, thank everybody for joining the session today. Really appreciate it. Just let us know how we can help. And hopefully talk to you soon. Be safe, take care, and have a great rest of the day.
Boost productivity and get the most out of Outlook with Prophet CRM. Have a look at the following topics which are covered in the Prophet CRM Learning Series. Visit www.avidian.com.